Second by C.W. Whitaker. All of those in favor, if you will so indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. So that brings us up to the adoption of the treasurer's report. The treasurer's report was received in the monthly meeting with the minutes. So for the members that are here, you would have already received those minutes as well as the treasurer's report that was outlined. Are there any noted corrections, changes, or additions? Hearing none, we will now move for the exception and the adoption of the minute, for the treasurer's report. If I could receive a motion, please.
I, Dr. Curtis, move that or make a motion that we accept the treasurer's report as written.
Pending.
Oh, pending audit, I'm sorry.
Thank you, that's okay. And it's been second by Mr. Howard Penny. All of those in favor, if you will so indicate with an aye.
Aye.
At this time, Madam Secretary, looking for a movement.
Having received the minutes, are there any corrections needed? Okay, so move for adoption.
I move to adopt. Okay, it's been moved by Melanie.
Moved by Melanie.
Second by.
And second by,
My second.
second by Dr. Curtis.
Thank you. All of those in favor, if you will so indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving right along. So right now, we will have our membership appeal by our membership chair, Madam Lucas. This is why I didn't open that door. It is hot.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Membership appeal. I did have a little bit of time to look at the sign-in sheet, and I saw that there were a few people who were not a member of the NAACP branch number 6169. So just in case you're not, y'all can come right back there and see any of those lovely ladies back there and get signed up tonight. As you know, to sign up for 1 year, membership is only $30. Just $30 a year. And if you want to get your kiddos signed up, it's only $10. $10 to get your kiddos signed up. If you want to start your first lifetime membership, it's $750 for your first lifetime membership. But tonight we have a special. We'll only charge you $75 a year, and we'll give you 10 years to pay it out. You can't beat that deal. You just need to pay it right before your anniversary or on that anniversary date that you signed in. I don't want to have to start you over. And if anyone is looking to join any of our committees, we would like for you to come and support us. The membership, we're looking for people to work on the membership committee, education, our housing department, economic development, legal redress, religious affairs. So if there's anybody who wants to sign up for a committee, just come see us in the back. We'll be happy to get you signed up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I would like to do a pinning ceremony, and it gives me great pleasure to present to some and to introduce to others our newest civil life member with national as well as the local NAACP. So if you would please help me bring up our civil life member none other than the Reverend John Beckwith, Dr. Beckwith. Lift your label, Peggy. Congratulations, how you doing? I would like to present to you the certificate of civil life membership. This certifies that John Beckwith is a life member of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Signed off by our president and chairperson, as well as our national membership chair. Yes. Okay, also I would like to, I thought I was going to pin you as a live member, give you another pin that you can wear next to that one, known as the Old Maiden. Bye to the day he died. Okay, I should work it out. Okay. This is your life pin, lifetime, silver life. Okay, that's the left side. Nice pin now.
I got you.
You got it? Okay, congratulations, and thank you very much, and welcome aboard. Okay. So, at this time, we will continue with the agenda as planned, and we will have Ms. Candace Wicks to come up and present our speaker for this afternoon. Ms. Candace Wicks. I know,
Feel so
Okay,
honored.
I got it.
okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's an honor and pleasure to be able to introduce our speaker for this evening. Randall B. Bryant, the chairman of the DART Board. As of 2026, Randall Bryant is a prominent political strategist and transit official in Dallas, Texas. In October 2025, he was elected as the board chair of the Dallas Area Rapid Transit. At 38, he is the youngest board chair in the history of this agency, over 42 years. Currently, he is leading the agency through a critical period as several member cities are considering withdrawal in a scheduled election in 2026. However, he is purposely ordained for this challenge. In a professional role, he is the president and CEO of Politics United Marketing, a firm specializing in government affairs and political consulting. Other roles that he has held is that he is the immediate past chair of the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce and a member of the Democratic National Committee. Please receive today's speaker, Mr. Randall Bryant.
Thank you, Ms. Wicks.
Thank you. Thank you all. Y'all hear me? Now, I think the microphone went out again. A few days ago, I got a call from y'all's president, and she said, "Can you come and talk to us about DART?" I said, "Sure, no problem. I talk about DART all day, every day." That was only really the advice she gave me today, was come talk about DART. So I'm sure you all have seen, it's almost daily now, these are printed, about the state of affairs at DART. As the introducer of me kind of put, back in October, on October 28th, I became the chair of the board, and I I had not even served, even to this point, I had not even served 2 years on the board. But the majority of the board members at the time thought it would be best to elect me to serve as chair. And, you know, there's been a lot of talks amongst Dart, Dallas, our other 12 cities, as it relates to various issues that are present right now. And I called for, hopefully, some peace within the organization and within our cities. However, 12 hours after I became the chair, I started beginning to receive calls from 3 cities at that time that they would be taking votes to withdraw from the agency. So it definitely is not the start that was anticipated, but also doesn't mean that that's how the story should end.
Right.
And so we have been working day in and day out to try to resolve these issues. This is not the first time DART has been in a series of withdrawal elections. 1983, 15 cities, well actually 17 cities took votes amongst themselves to vote into DART. 15 were successful. Then in 1985, 2 attempted withdrawal elections, both were unsuccessful. In 1989, 8 cities tried to withdraw, 2 were successful. And in 1996, the year the light rail actually opened in this region, 6 cities tried to withdraw, and none of them were successful. So this is not a new place for DART. This is not a place we've, I wouldn't say aren't accustomed to. It's definitely not the best place to be, and definitely not the best place to be 2.5 months into the job. So I did want to share with you a few things, because I know it's a lot of media talk and a lot of, neighborhood talk, and to try to set as much of the record straight, answer as many questions as possible. What you have before you is a safety briefing that I asked our staff to put together. Safety is one of the top priorities for me and the board and our staff. And there's been a lot of fuzzy math, I would call it, and narrative building on the opposition side as to what crime stats are for DART. And some will point to the fact that DART crime is up, which is the number you see in the middle on this first page here. What happened was about 3 years ago, DART received a large amount of COVID dollars. We gave about half of it away to our member cities, which obviously didn't do too good for us. But the money that we kept, we hired 100 new transit security officers to police the system day in and day out. Then that actually rolled into a commitment from the board year over year to actually put in our general fund. So we've put more police presence on the system. They are responding to more crimes in real time. Therefore, obviously, the numbers are up. So we generally call those kind of crimes against society. It's public intoxication, sleeping on trains, things of that nature. The crimes that matter most to people, crimes against persons, crimes against property, is actually down, again, because we put more uniformed officer presence on the system. So the crimes that actually matter most to people, theft, robbery, assaults, homicides in unfortunate situations, they're actually down, quite substantially. So that's a big misnomer that the opposition wants to use this number in the center without the true narrative, well, actually the true facts that supports why that's happening. Beyond that, we're kind of more big picture, and you can kind of go through this, beyond the talking points here. But the backside really tells the story of where we're trying to go next, is actually to add an additional 100 uniformed officers so that every station platform and every train car has at least one uniformed presence during all hours of operations, right? All right, that's a little bit better. Praise God. Probably also saw some articles and publications over the past week or so about various service changes that are going to be implemented starting next month. In kind of response to some initial responses to some of the cities, part of DART that requested a a large amount of money that we just could not afford. But we tried to appease some of them with about $43 million worth of reallocations back to some of our member cities. And that caused us to go through a series of public hearings and town halls to, let's back up. At DART we have 3 buckets of money. We have capital improvement projects, which are assets, vehicles, infrastructure projects. We have our personnel, and then we have our services, okay? We always try to reduce the impacts on services as much as possible because that impacts day-to-day people. So out of the service changes that were, and I'm trying to keep it central to the area here, the 378, of course, was one of the 7 routes system-wide. It does go from downtown to the Redbird Transfer Center. The 101 still is in place. The 47 on Polk Street still runs north and south to downtown. The other big kind of service change that we put in place was our frequency during peak hours. We moved that from 15 minutes to 20 minutes. Again, we're trying to eliminate as least amount of routes as possible and have as much system-wide impacts. We have a big issue kind of right now with maintenance and operations. We're replacing all of our bus fleet at one time. And so this also allows us to have more downtime to keep our maintenance up on our buses and our fleets as well, from reducing the 15 to 20 minutes. So as of right now, there are 5 cities that have called for withdrawal elections: Plano, Irving, Farmers Branch, Highland Park, and University Park. There will be a public hearing. Well, because we have such large impacts, potential impacts, pending the outcomes of those elections, DART by law has to go through a public hearing process to notify everyone, not just the cities that are called for withdrawal elections, but if you need to get to Addison or if you need to get to Plano, you'll be impacted if their city withdraws, right? So we have an obligation, and so for Dallas, the location is not determined as of right now, but I can tell you that it will be on February the 23rd at 6 p.m. So if you're taking notes, the actual location will be out soon. And then ultimately, how do we kind of solve the problem? The 3 kind of pillars, I'll get you in just a second. The 3 pillars of the discussion that are happening right now as far as the solutions or the compromises stem around 3 pillars: funding, governance, and service. The DART's model kind of has been the same since 1983 when it was first enacted by the state legislature. So the funding has always been 1% or 1 cent of sales taxes collected in the 13 cities to fund the operations. Now let's stop right there and make a pause, because a lot of people kind of don't understand this. Your property taxes do not fund DART. Sales taxes that are derived of any commerce, whether it's online or in person, from either a resident of this city, an immigrant to this city, a tourist to this city, whatever the case may be, when you go to the gas station or you go and do commerce and you get charged 8.25%, 6.25 goes to the state, 1% goes to the city, and the other 1% goes to DART. That's been the funding model since day one. So when people say, I don't want my tax dollars going somewhere, well, again, unless we go to Plano and they ask for ID and they say, oh, you're in Dallas, we won't charge you that 1%. No ma'am, no sir, council members, all of our tax dollars goes and supports not only your city, but this agency if we're doing business in that city, right? And so, kind of big picture, the state has imposed a lot of compression on cities' ability to grow their budgets. And so they're looking at DART as a money grab, in my opinion, to balance their budgets or, utilize those dollars for economic incentives. Our goal at DART is to provide clean, secure, safe, reliable transit to the everyday person, whether they depend on DART or they choose to use it. And so that's where the biggest fight is with these cities. Truth be told, the ultimate arbitrator is the state legislature. You all can think who's in charge of the state legislature. And you can think who are our member cities outside of just Dallas and where those political dynamics lie. Okay? The second is governance. DART has had 2 governance models. The first one was 25 board members in 1983. In 1995, that was changed to the current structure we have now. It's 15 board members. So if you think about it, 13 cities, 15 board members. Obviously, not every city has full representation on the board. Dallas controls 8 of the 15, and so some of the cities, the small ones in particular, feel like they don't have a voice on the board. And so, again, that change must be made with the state legislature, but those are the items of concern right now. Then, of course, the service, which service is going to be dependent upon the funding. If we give more money back to cities to help them, alleviate their financial burdens within their own general funds, it means we have less dollars to implement services throughout general fund, right? And so that's a high-level view of what's going on. The elections themselves, because we are a tax-funded organization, I can't say vote a certain way on it. I'm in due bounds of just educating on the issues themselves and putting out as many facts as possible. But so with the 5 cities that have called for the elections right now, they have until March the 18th to rescind that election call. If not, it will go on the ballot on May the 2nd. And if a city votes in the majority to withdraw from DART, services end immediately to that city. And then whatever debt that they owe us is a range between all of our cities between 3 and 30 years, just depending on what assets and infrastructure and commitments have been made to those cities. They would have to commit that penny to DART until it's paid off, and then they will be able to do what they desire as a city with the remaining penny. And so that's kind of the framework. Every day, this is, for all intents and purposes, a volunteer role for me. But every day, it's something that I myself, the rest of the DART leadership is working to ensure we don't get to that election process. But it's ultimately in the cities that have called for those withdrawal elections. It's in their hands whether they find compromise with us or not. So with that, I'm going to open up for questions. I saw Judge King first, unless I answered it.
No, not really. Let me identify myself first.
Please.
Okay, so I'm Judge Angela King, and I am an Oak Cliff native, and my sister still relies heavily on DART. So I am concerned, and she was one of the ones affected by the whole route change during COVID. I am concerned about the cities that are talking about withdrawing, because I think it was last night or the night before, the news gave a little blip about, hey, if they vote to exit the plan or whatever, then that means those services end immediately. That means those services, like, maybe even door-to-door pickup, or what does that look like? Does that mean if, let's say, McKinney or something like that opts out, the train won't stop in that city, or it won't go through that city?
Yeah.
What does that really look like if those cities, decide to opt out?
Yeah.
No
So-
more service to TCU and things like that?
Yeah. So DART, we have 5 modes of transportation. We have our commuter rail, which is TRE and the new Silver Line. We have the light rail, which is blue, orange, green, red. We have our buses. We have a micro transit, which is kind of like Uber share, ride shares, and they're in certain, geographic-based zones. And then we have paratransit that runs the entire network. So if a city specifically votes to withdraw all of those services because not every city has all of the services. Most cities do. Park cities, for example, they don't have light rail. The Rowlett, which is not on the ballot, but they don't have commuter rail. So whichever cities have those services, all of them would be shuttered the very next day. So if you either live in that city or you need access to that city, you can no longer get it through DART. You asked so let's use Irving, for example, because they are on the ballot. So we have 3 stations on the Orange Line. We have a few more on the TRE, but let's use the Orange Line, for example, here. We go through Irving to get to DFW Airport, okay? So if Irving were successfully to withdraw, this is Irving's third time now, just by the way. If they were to successfully withdraw, the train would still go through Irving. It just wouldn't stop at those 3 locations any longer. It would just continue on to DFW Airport. And so it's going to be like a little bit of a balance that we have to really determine how much, and that's why you don't really want a kind of a fragmented system, because if we're going to still go to DFW, it's going to cost us the same amount regardless if we're stopping at those 3 stops or not. The wear and tear on the vehicle, the hours of operations, all those things are going to be in effect. You'll save a little bit, on lights or whatever at a station that's shuttered. But ultimately, the majority of the cost will still be there. So, we'll have to kind of determine the routes that go through cities that are no longer in DART, how much of that part that we can afford to miss out. Maybe it might just be more local inner cities if it becomes a very disjointed system. But, all that's really like, I can tell you that with certainty, but I can't tell you if this city withdraws and that city, because it's all very much hypothetical base of what the outcomes will be.
And one quick follow-up, and then I'll let somebody else. You touched on it a little bit, but does that mean increased cost if these cities are allowed to, does it mean increased cost to the city of Dallas or?
Yeah, no, because DART can only assess a full penny to all cities right now. So what it may mean is less routes or less frequency, because just like you buy anything in bulk, you get a better price, right? So with less revenues, that's less money to spend, right? And so it may cause further reductions on the service because we now have less routes, right? I'm getting this lady, then I'll get you. Yes, ma'am.
Can you speak to the upcoming soccer games and the saturation of the system in terms of people that will be coming from various countries? And how are you going to be addressing the employees? Will you be doing more hiring? What's the plan?
The FIFA, I'm assuming you're referring to.
Yes, sir, FIFA.
So the FIFA plan is actually being driven by COG, because we are coordinating not only just DART, but DCTA in Denton, as well as Trinity Metro in Fort Worth. So the bulk of the work that's been designed for transit is actually being designed through the COG. The main things that I can tell you that we're doing at DART, one is for the games that will be played at the Arlington Stadium, we have brought in, I believe, 4 additional commuter rail vehicles from out of state to get placed on the TRE. They're driving the trains down here to get placed on the TRE line, so they're compatible with that line. They won't look the same, but they're compatible. To create access to Arlington, it'll stop at Centerpoint, and then there will be a charter buses picking up in Arlington from Centerpoint Station to take them directly to the game. On the south side, we're creating what we're calling a bus bridge to alleviate any additional capacity needed that the TRE cannot supply, and that bus bridge will run back and forth down I-30 to Arlington from Union Station. So kind of the hub for it is Union Station downtown. That's where the buses will be, or Victory Station, sorry. That's where the buses will be. That's where the TRE is going to come in. So it's going to be kind of doing this, right? TRE going north, the bus bridge going south. And then for the fan experience at Fair Park, we're running 3 cars all the time, 4 cars doing max load capacities, similar to how we did for Texas OU. And so we've done trial runs for the fan experience through the Texas OU game, and then we did a trial run for the Arlington Stadium at the Cotton Bowl game at the end of last year. You asked about, so we will probably be increasing, more than likely not hiring more individuals, but offsetting that with more overtime hours. Because with the current implementation of this budget that we did, we kind of did a pseudo hiring freeze on operators so that we could account for the $42 million that we put back for the cities. And so it's not an official hiring freeze. We're just not trying to fill any new vacancies with the attrition of retirees that we typically have. And so that will be kind of how we deal with the extra riders. For, you know, how this plays out with the cities and the withdrawal elections, because again, that's going to be in May. This is going to start in June. That's going to be something that the voters may have to contemplate. That's about the best political insight I can give you on that. Yes, I'll go here and then.
Has anybody studied or attempted to understand what the impact would be on the potentially withdrawing cities for the average worker? A lot of people would like some of the restaurant workers or whatever case depend on that transportation to get to their place of work. So what's going to happen, and I've listened to this quite extensively, is that at that point, some of the for lack of a better term, the attention to withdraw is by people who don't have a transportation problem.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, but those people who don't have a transportation problem have a need for service people to service them.
Right.
And so once they make that decision to disengage from the system, the dark system, then they also cut themselves off from their service personnel. And at that point, they'll be crying, oh, what happened to us? We made a bad decision. How is that being addressed?
Trying to get me in trouble. So I'll give you two facts, and then I'll try to opine a bit on that. So 2/3 of our riders are at or below the poverty line. We do a survey every year that tracks ridership data, where you come from, why you taking the system. 3/4 of them, this is the only transportation option that they have. So that's one. The second one is 75% of all trips cross multiple city lines.
Yes.
Okay? So, you take some of these cities, 99% of the trips in some of these cities that are calling for withdrawal elections, it's exactly what you're talking about. It is the working class individuals. And that was actually, for some of you all a little bit more seasoned, we'll call it that remember, the original culmination of DART. The original idea was to take blue-collar workers in Dallas to blue-collar jobs in the manufacturing bases, the industrial bases in the Addisons and the Planos and the Farmers Branches, and to take the white-collar jobs from those individuals downtown, okay? The first one is still very much there. The second one is where the largest decrease post-COVID has been. We have not seen return to work as high as expected. I personally live downtown, right? Floor after floor after floor, whether that's Comerica, Santander, Light Gas, they're all going from commercial to residential, right? And so you're losing. It's about 20% that we have not fully recaptured post-COVID, and that's exactly where those numbers are. There are by and large, white-collar jobs that are downtown that people are still working from home or in flex schedules or things of that nature, right? That's why the parking rides are not as widely used as they were before. And what we're trying to do even with that is turn them into transit-oriented development projects, right? So you put the density on the property that we currently own through ground leases, and you force the development and you force the ridership too, right? And so we're trying to solve for the problems, but we're also trying to solve for them in real time.
So, in that saying that, are you familiar with Stop 6?
Of course.
The history of Stop 6 was that there were 6 stops from downtown Fort, 6 bus stops from downtown Fort Worth to Black Fort Worth. Stop 6 was the last stop. After Stop 6, which wasn't a black environment at that point, everybody else had to walk. They had to walk. So all the black people, the service people, they had to walk to Stop 6. So before they could pick up. So I'm not sure, in the presentation, or if you will, the education for people who would think they would want to withdraw, for them to understand the history of what they're going to lose when they do that.
You're assuming that they care.
Well,
Right.
we're not trying to solve for the same problems. They're trying to solve for a financial problem. We're trying to solve for a humanitarian problem. And that's been the biggest crux of all of this. Yes, ma'am.
Mine's kind of going along the same line as his, but on the other side in terms of corporate, because I think if there's a way to translate
You assume they care.
of the writers to show how much the corporations could lose,
Yeah.
then that could translate to them
Yeah.
voting to keep guard.
And we have been in touch with various business, not just business community, business leaders, but those that have the large scale employment bases to try to urge them to speak to the city leaders that are pushing this. Now, if you listen to these city leaders, they'll tell you, they believe in transit, they believe in public transportation. It's just DART is not their answer, and they believe that they can do it better. And even if it's, because here's ultimately, where does this get us to? Let's say Irving and Plano both withdraw. What you probably will end up having is a microtransit or Uber-based system solely in their cities. They can't run buses, and they won't be able to build a light rail system, right? And they probably won't have access to outlets, okay? So there's a lot of federal guidelines in this stuff, right? So that's what I say, they won't do buses. So let's just say hypothetically, if there's a microtransit system based in Irving, you live in Irving and you need to get to Plano where you work, more than likely you're going to have to pay a microtransit to get out of Irving, get on the DART system, pay to ride the train or the bus to Plano, and pay another fee once you're inside of Plano. And again, that's just going to impact the working class that they don't care about.
Well, but also you got to think about this. Maybe they don't, like you said, they don't care. However, in the haste to withdraw,
Yeah.
they can't implement anything fast
Well,
enough.
and I'm not going to take up for them, but I will say this. The state law only allows them to withdraw once every 6 years. We're in the 6th year right now. That's why it's happening right now and very fast. Because they can only do it in May or in November of this year, or they would have to wait another 6 years.
Right,
So that's why, but I'm just saying, that's why it's all happening and all happening together collectively.
But even given the merit of them withdrawing, whatever, then what could they put in place fast enough? Nothing.
No, and it will come at the expense of their property taxes, because their sales tax is going to be tied up for numerous years, paying off the debt that they owe to DART. You're asking all the right questions. You need to go take the train up to Plano and go ask them. Yes, I'm gonna get this lady, and then Mr. Benson, I'm gonna get you. Did you have a question?
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Benson.
Is there anybody in DART planning for the future when you have self-driving vans that are going to be very prolific and probably replacing buses?
I don't know if it will replace buses, at least in the near future. However, what you're referring to are autonomous vehicles, and we are looking at, the technology is good, it's not great.
No.
And so what we're looking at right now are for our circulators, which run very short distance bases in very controlled environments like at SMU. It runs from Mockingbird Station onto the campus, 2 stops on campus and back to SMU, right? We do it also at UNT Dallas, at UT Dallas. There's a couple other ones that, they don't even go more than 2 miles. And so the COG has it's called a mid-size vehicle, a mid-size vehicle replacement grant for about $300,000. They cost about $450,000, so it's a little bit more that we have to come out of pocket to pay for them. But we are looking at those options currently, and how we can fund them, how can we replace the vehicles and the personnel, because again, I got drivers driving those buses right now, and then, that's what automation will do. It will ultimately replace jobs, right? So it's a little bit of a delicate balance that we're trying to play, but we definitely are looking at some manufacturers that are doing some demos, and that's kind of where our starting point for pilots, as you would call them, would be. Yes, sir.
So what I'm hearing you say, those that are pulling, the cities that are wanting to pull out, have they run a projection on the cost of pulling out versus staying? So that what I'm hearing is they're doing it for a financial reasoning. But if the financial reasoning that they're so quick to try to save on, you can run an AI that will project for you, is this a good decision, is this not a good decision, if all they care about is finance. So if we assume all they care about is finance, is this a sound financial decision to pull out? Because it sounds like, based on what's here, based on a lot of what's been in the room, there's going to be backlash that 5,000 feet, without looking at specifics, it's going to happen, it's imminent. But the focus is, if they care about money, what they're doing is going to cost them more. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think you're asking me to kind of put my brain into their brain, which is difficult. But what's also kind of happening at the same time is they've called for these withdrawal elections, and then the very next week they've sent us proposals on what it would take for us to agree to, for them to rescind the elections. So it's a negotiating tactic.
Ransom.
You see what I mean?
Ransom,
Yeah.
the correct word for it.
So that's more of the, I guess you would call it the calculus ultimately for them. If you would run it through an AI, it's more or less, that's really not the formula that they're trying to solve for. The formula is, if we could use this as a leverage point to get something out of it that doesn't destroy the entire system in their mind. And that's where the kind of, that's the plot right now, is what can DART do to suffice the appetite to a point that doesn't destroy this agency. And if not, then we'll have an election for me in a second.
Chair Bryant.
Yes. Yes, yes,
One-
yes.
One more. This one's completely unrelated. Are there talks of DART extending into the city of DeSoto?
Okay, political answer would be you have to talk to the city of DeSoto for that. Because that's how, there's only two ways a city can get voted into or voted out of DART. Ultimately, it's the people, okay, the residents, the voters of the city. And the only way to get to them is by council action or by 20% of the registered voters through a petition, okay? So, but what really, like, the question of, like, what are the constraints on that? And that goes back to the funding part of it. So most cities, so the state legislature did us some solid. They granted us chapter 452 of the Transportation Code that created DART. And a few years later, they did this thing called 4A4B, where they put limitations on the sales tax dollars. So the cities have allocated that 2 cents, and they're doing whatever they want to. Well, not whatever, there are some limitations to it, but it's locked, right? So unless they took money away from that, which some of them have been created through residences votes as well, right? And so you have to go through a process of kind of undoing it. So that's kind of what I was talking about earlier about the models for governance and the models for funding and how we can make it more attractive or reduce the barriers for entry for new member cities. Governance is one of the things because they want to have a seat at the table if they appoint, if they vote into the system. But their ability to afford a full penny, most cities just cannot do. And so, you know, are there other systems that run on a half a penny or 3/8 of a penny? Absolutely. But they're not the second largest light rail system in the country. They have not built an airport with two commuter rail entry points and a light rail entry point. They do not provide paratransit services to the entire service area like we do at Darwin. The mandate says that we only have to do 3/4 of a mile. So, you know, we could operate with, well, we could have built a system with less money. it would be nowhere near the system that we have today. And what people don't really, we live in Dallas. We see this thing every day. We don't really know what to compare it to. I serve on the American Public Transportation Association National Board. And like, I promise you, DART is the flagship. In a very short period, you got systems that's over 100 years. New York is over 100 years. San Francisco is over 100 years. In 42 short years, we've built the second largest light rail system in this country, right? So we could have taken a very much slimmed down approach to it and charged cities less, or, you know, accounted for less revenue, but it would not be the system that you have today.
So
Got
what
it.
is it that we can do, Mr. Bryant, to assist?
Fight and
us?
pray.
But prayer without works is
It's
dead.
dead.
And so what we recognize here is that the majority of the impact is going to impact those in the southern sector.
Yeah.
Mainly because we go out north for the better paying jobs.
Correct.
So therefore, when they cut that service off,
Yeah.
we'll be the ones that's unable to get to the jobs. So they say that the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I don't know how true that is, but what I do know is this: to sit back and not say something is the wrong thing to do. We still need to let our voices be heard. Whether they listen to it or not, we have a responsibility to advocate for such.
And if I could make one last point, I don't want
Yes.
to come after the president, but let's be really clear about this. You have 13 member cities. Dallas is the largest one, okay? Dallas has a very pivotal role in the outcomes of this. Even though they are not calling for withdrawal elections, there are certain terms that some of our cities are requesting that if Dallas does not agree to them, then they will continue on with their withdrawal election. So today, for example, we had a T&I, Transportation Infrastructure Committee meeting where the governance was placed before the committee. It barely passed on a 4-3 vote. And so when you have the negotiations going on and people are saying, this is what I want, and you're trying to figure out what it is the most that you can do before, you know, bending but not breaking, Dallas, although they're not calling for withdrawal elections, it is important for us to be in contact with our Dallas council members so that, one, they are fully educated on the impacts of it, and that their minds are tuned in to this may not be the best outcome that you think is right, but for those that are impacted the most here, and if we do need these jobs, or if we do need these leisurely activities in these certain areas that are calling for withdrawal elections, and they're asking for certain concessions to be made, it's in our, you know, joint best interest to support those things. And that's been one of the biggest challenges. The cities that are calling for withdrawal elections have a lot of issues with DART. They also have a lot of issues with the city of Dallas as well. And so, you know, that's that.
Half a dozen in one hand, and the other half in the other. So again, I will say, as we have said many times before, that's why it's important to go to the city council meetings. We have to show up at the meetings. Like today, what showed up at the libraries. Okay, they want to close certain libraries, but yet make mega libraries. If they don't hear from you, the constituents, they do what they choose to do, which they feel like may or may not be in the best interest of the city or the people that's actually going to the libraries, if that makes sense. So having said that, yes, ma'am.
Madam President and Mr. Chair, you brought up the city council. Can you just go over briefly how our board members get selected and how we can help and advocate and support those board members in those positions and roles?
Well, as of right now, which could change based on the kind of compromises in the state legislature, but as of right now, there are 15 total board members. 8 of them are appointed by the city of Dallas. One of those 8 is a shared seat with Copper Hill. but we do have the voting power to appoint all 8. So we have a slim majority on the board, if you kind of break it down by Dallas versus suburbs, right? But there are probably over 30 that I can think of, various votes that require 2/3 majority for DART to operate. So even though we have a majority of the board, most critical decisions require at least 2/3. And so our alliances and our partnerships with a lot of the cities that are not called for withdrawal elections are going to be important now and even in the future, regardless of whatever government structure we decide on. But we're all appointed by the city council. Sorry, we're all appointed by the city council for 2 years, and that's how you become a DART board member.
So who is responsible, or is anybody responsible for either the examination or the presentation of this like butterfly effect of what's gonna happen? Because I think that's, to me, and that's what, in the meetings that I've attended to and anything I've seen on the news, I haven't heard that said. I haven't heard anybody bring that up, that guess what, let me explain to you, let me show you the effect of what's gonna happen when you do that. I think that would be a considering issue for most average people.
Yeah.
Because if people can't get from the southern sector to their jobs, not only are they gonna lose their job, they're gonna lose their car, their their homes, and so it's going to have a broader butterfly effect.
And by the time we realize it'll be too late.
Right.
And it'll take, if we figure it out in 5 years, it'll take 15 years to fix.
Well, but if for the most part, for the average person, if 3-4 months out of your job, and that's gonna be a catastrophic effect, 5 or 6 years, probably 6 years for you financially.
Right. I mean, that's, for DART, I have to speak for DART on this one. And that's very hard for us to kind of put together, one, because I don't know which cities would be successful if they ultimately go through. I can just tell you service will end. And if you rely on or would like to travel in that city via DART, it will not be there anymore. That's really because again, there's a lot of parameters for DART. Ultimately, DART, let me just say this in the closing. DART, there's only one city that if they were to remove themselves from DART by statute would dissolve, and that's the city of Dallas. The statute says for DART to be DART, you must have at least one city with 1.1 billion people in it. So if Dallas voted to withdraw from DART, the system would collapse. So long as that doesn't happen, DART will always be DART. If it's one city, 13 cities, 28 cities, DART will be DART, right? But where you can go can only be determined by the cities that are within it. And so, but the agency itself will still be the agency, and we're going to wake up on May the 3rd and
Figure it out.
exactly right. Exactly.
So we're gonna take one last question.
Ms. Wicks.
Last question.
Would you just please share with everyone if and when DART will make the announcement about election travel? Will there be free rides to the polls, and what does that look like?
DART always provides free drives to the polls on election day. We always do that, so that will be still in place. Not for early vote, just on election day.
And
But we're voting early, so.
Vote early and often.
Okay.
it changes on the election day, because now you have to actually go to your exact precinct.
Correct.
And a lot of.
That's for
people
the
check
March
that.
election. That's not guaranteed for the May election.
Well, okay, I'm talking about February 17th.
Through the 27th.
That's for the, yeah, okay, sorry. So okay, I see where you're at. Not for the withdrawal elections you're referring to. You're talking about the
General
March,
elections.
the March primary elections, the Democratic and Republican primary elections on March 2nd, 5th, 3rd. See what
One of them
I
days,
did?
no, just kidding.
See what I mean? I got May in my mind.
I know,
What
right?
y'all do in March, I'm gonna do my part. But I got May on my mind. But yes, we do provide free rides on election day. And yes, you must vote at your home precinct if you vote on election day. You can vote anywhere during early vote.
within the county.
Within the county.
That you're registered. So let's give it up for Mr. Randall Bryant. Okay, so the time is fast passing, and we have guests with us, we have new members with
Good job,
us,
bro.
and we have candidates. So at this time, we're going to start with the introduction and a quick presentation of our candidates. So I'll start up here. You're up front, so if you would stand up, tell everyone who you are, what you're running for, please.
My name is DeMarcus Alfred. I'm running for Dallas County Clerk. I'm support. Grew up in Dallas, born and raised. I worked for Congressman Abraham Johnson. I worked at Dallas ISD, leading intergovernmental relations. And I now work at DART, leading state relations. So I handle our whole entire state portfolio at DART for the transit agency. So anything legislative-wise, policy-wise, I've been volunteering with the Democratic Party for the past over 17 years, since I've been 13 years old. So I'm truly vested in this role, truly vested in this community. And I think that as times change, this is not a retirement for me. This is just the next step in the next leg of the road. I'm currently endorsed by all the Dallas County Commissioners and also the current clerk, Mr. John Warren, who's since retired for his next adventure. So I would truly like your support and your prayers, and I look forward to answering the questions you may have.
Thank you. That's Mr. Marcus Alford. And do we have you running for something? Do we have any other candidates? Idris.
Briefly, my name is Idris Hakeem Pelham, so it's Idris, like your favorite actor, and then Hakeem Pelham, that's like Akeem the Dream. I'm running for the 363rd, it's a felony trial bench. I've been a prosecutor for the last 12 years, and then I'll do my own criminal defense firm, so also if you need any help in that kind of area, it's idrislaw.com, so just take credit about that as well. But I am ready for that. I have over 100. I have the experience for it. I have over 100 trials that I've led, that I've participated in my 12-year career. So, idrisjudge.com. If you want to check me out and see my history. But homegrown, born in Oak Cliff, raised right up the street, off Cochran, Illinois. All right, who's your phone? Cynthia Garden. And any questions y'all have, I'll be right here. I have cards for everybody.
Thank you, Idris. Thank you. Do you have any other candidates?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm gonna take my glasses off. Normally I don't have them on. I can't see, but I'm right. So my name is Angela King, and I am the judge of County Criminal Court number 6. I've been that judge since being elected in 2006. I'm one of those people that was a part of that big, beautiful wave, the blue wave that turned Dallas County blue. Yes, I started running for this bench back in 2004 and have been here ever since. Like I said, when I was asking my questions earlier, I'm a native of Oak Cliff. I grew up in Singing Hills. That's me. That's my hood. I appreciate your support. I, have been a part of this community ever since, my whole life. My son used to, when he was little, used to come over here and play Little League basketball. So I would just love to have your support. I do have an opponent. That's one of the reasons that you're seeing me, because I do have an opponent, okay? And this, I don't like to speak ill of anyone. So I have an opponent. I need your vote. I hope you'll come out and do that for me. Angela King, County Criminal Court number 6. It's a misdemeanor court. And you can look me up and you can find out what I do.
I don't know, wait till I see.
I know. Do y'all have any questions of me before I sit down?
No.
South Oak Cliff is my home school, but I did graduate from Southline High School. Yes, sir.
Let's give it up to Miss Angela, Mr. DeMarcus, Mr. Idris, and we have the Honorable Judge Audrey Moorhead in the house with us. Do we have any other candidates? Any other candidates? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none, we do have some first-time visitors with us. So, Mr. Zander,
What's going on, everybody? Not from here, from California. Living in DeSoto. I am up and down the DFW area. I'm a concierge of resources, specialize in content creation. I do a lot of content for a lot of different people, organizations that I'm a part of, a lot of nonprofits, for-profits. My goal is to create visibility on whatever a problem is and solve a lot of problems before and create solutions for organizations, people that like us.
thank you. First timers. So, any other first timers? Okay, Ms. Frazier?
So good evening, everybody. My name is Robin Frazier, and I am a concierge for Grocery Connect. Has anybody heard of Grocery Connect in here?
See?
Oh, well,
I told you.
now, Grocery Connect is a partnership between Bonton Farms and Kroger. And what we do, we bring Kroger's curbside delivery to the South Dallas area that is considered to be a food desert. So we have 3 different locations. I work at the at ICDC. We have a location at Dallas Bethlehem, also the Bonton Wellness Center. So the process of things is just you're ordering your groceries online and paying for them. They would be delivered, delivery fee free, and you just have to come and pick them up. It's a good service for people that either work over here, live in South Dallas, or work in South Dallas, live somewhere else. Anybody traveling 30 east of Dallas, I'm 1 mile off of 30 on the Dalton Road. So if you don't like going to the grocery store, you hang out in South Dallas, you be in South Dallas, you don't mind coming to South Dallas, and don't want to go to the grocery store, you can place your orders up until 12 o'clock on Fridays, pick them up after 3.
Thank you, Ms. Frazier. And I think you need to come back and bring your cards and let people
Well, I
know
do have
exactly what you're
flyers
doing.
that actually have the steps for
Okay,
ordering.
so if you want to go ahead and pass those out while I move on to the next visitor, first timers. Don't be shy.
Hi, my name is Maya Sanders, and I was invited by the president yesterday at the MLK celebration.
She was on all of us, huh?
Right. I'm excited to be here. Currently, I actually work for Congresswoman Julie Johnson on her campaign for Texas 33, the duly redistricted. She is going to primary with Colin Allred, and the reason, can I say wrong?
So let me just say this, and I need to be transparent, because the NAACP, we do not endorse, understand, we do not endorse candidates. Now, if we are in alignment, or they are in alignment with our mission, that's one thing, but we still do not endorse them. However, we do encourage any candidate to come out and share their information, because the best voter is an educated voter. And we cannot afford to allow voters to go and vote, continue to go and vote, just because they recognize a name. Get to know about the candidates, okay? And at this time, he's not a first timer, but he is a special guest of our second VP, in light of the fact that it is her dad, my good friend, Mr. John Williams. I get to see him in a setting other than NAACP, so stand up and wave your hand. Yeah, and just remember, been a member.
How's everybody? John Williams.
Thank you for being here. And this gentleman, I want to publicly thank him on behalf of the Dallas NAACP, and that's Mr. Charles McGriff. Mr. McGriff was kind enough to assist us in the MLK parade on yesterday. So for those of us that walked, he says, I got you. If you get tired and can't go any further, just get in the car, or if you can't walk, I'm here. So would you stand up, Mr. McGriff, and you guys help me thank him. Thank you, Mr. McGriff. And are there any other first timers? I know, Bill. And I want to give a shout out again. Yeah, she just don't want to stand up. Stand up.
Hi, my name is Deidre Robertson. First time here. I am very passionate about educated voters. I'm out in Waxahachie, but I am here because I want to serve. So.
And I've known her since she was a baby. Thank you for coming, Deidre. She's from my hometown, Tyler, Texas. Woo, woo. Yep, Tyler. And so I wanted to give it up again for Mr. John Beckwith. Thank you for being here with us, known as the Undertaker. He does this podcast, and we appreciate you and all the work that you do in and through the community. Thank you very much. So as we are preparing to end this evening, I do want to bring up Mr. Bill Benson. Bill is our education chair. And if you've been around, you know two things about Bill. Bill is excited, to say the least, about SOC. All you have to do is just mention South Oak Cliff, okay? And in just a few moments, he's gonna let you know on our way out. But before we let you speak, because you'll be the last word, Dr. Beckwith, would you mind giving us a prayer for on our way out, and then you can take it on in, okay? Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, membership. On February 8th, it's on the back of the flyers that we will be attending New Hope Baptist Church, the oldest African-American church here in Dallas, Texas. We're asking the membership to come out and support us as we go over to New Hope Baptist Church at the 11 a.m. service. The pastor is nice enough to allow us to come out, speak with the members, and do a membership drive. So show up and show out on February the 8th, okay? So, and thank you, Deidre, for being here. Doc, if you would, please.
Everyone, please stand if you're capable of doing so. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. God, we come to you right now. We're asking for your blessings for each and every person who is present on today. God, we're going to pray for everyone's safety as they return back to their homes. We're going to pray for their family as well as this great organization. God, we want to thank you right now for what's going to happen. We want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of what's going to happen. And we ask these things in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Now, let's not leave. You really need to hear. We need to hear what Bill has to say.
This
This
will-
is important.
This will be fast, but y'all know how good South Oak Cliff has done. It is the highest scoring school effective indices school in the whole city. Of all 37 high schools, including magnet schools and choice schools. Well, that status is now spreading rapidly. We changed the Student Motivation Project to the Student Motivation Homework Project. We did that just 5 days ago. Schools love the idea. They're coming out of the woodwork to do it. And I now predict that within the next 2 months, there will be 8 feeder patterns that have this in almost all their schools. So if you have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, nieces, nephews, great-nieces, great-nephews, in any of these our school feeder patterns, you might be getting a request to write a letter to that child. Here's the schools. Of course, South Oak Cliff, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Justin Kimball, L.G. Pinkston, Wilmer Hutchins, H. Grady Spruce out in Pleasant Grove, David Carter right down the street, and the last one is Sunset High School. And there may be more, but that's the ones we've got now lined up. So things are looking good, and the south side of Dallas is going to have the best performing schools, just like South Oak Cliff.
All right.
So Bill normally says, you know, South Oak Cliff went from a D to 1 point, within 1 point of having an A. Okay? 1 point of having an A. So not only are they qualified on the field, they qualified in the schoolroom where it counts, okay? So let's give it up for South Oak Cliff and the...
Well, if you want to see the data, go to studentmotivation.org. It's all over there. Spreadsheets, everything, and how the system works. And if you have any school anywhere with any of your kids who would like to improve, tell them that website. And I've got cards here, I'll be glad to give you, that'll tell you that.
And once again, I want to thank everyone for coming out. Remember to vote. Take someone with you to vote. And February 21st is the annual Juanita Craft Freedom Fund Scholarship and Awards Luncheon. We will be announcing our honorees within the next week. In addition to our 4 scholarship recipients, we have 11 honorees. Some of them are here with you right now. But we will save that announcement and make that announcement later. But guys, these are exciting times. These are challenging times. Stay engaged, stay involved, but more importantly, stay woke. Stay woke. Once again, thank everyone for coming out, and we look forward to seeing you in the very near. Congratulations, and thank you, Mr. Greer. Everyone be blessed.